Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I am your host, Kim Jordan, and welcome to Conversations with Kim. A lot has happened since we spoke previously, clearly, especially if you're here in the United States. You know about the debate, you know about all the things happening. Listen, let's just stay focused, get out there, vote, whoever your candidate is, make your voice be known, vote. And then, regarding the COVID-19, I'm asking that you would please still, exercise caution. This is not a time, in my opinion, that we would stop wearing our mask and things of that nature. I do know here in Florida, they have released the restaurants. So, they are fully packed and everybody can go in there and do what they're doing. Not me. So, own your safety, own your protection, do what's going to be best for you, your household, for your children and loved ones. And let's all just stay safe. So today we have a very special guest. I do want you to be very interactive. This is the village and we like to have fun. We like to provide quality content. And so please start asking your questions as soon as possible because we want to make sure that we get to them and that we're providing the type of content that you are finding valuable. So without any delay, I want to tell you a little bit about our guest today. She's currently the payroll and compliance manager. She previously was the HR manager for 9 years, which is where I met her. And she's been in the human resources and accounting field for over 20 years. Village, help me welcome one of my best friends, Jamie Powers.
Hi.
Hey, Jamie.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
I'm glad that you are here.
I know, you've been trying to get me to come on for a while.
From the beginning.
Vegan.
Yes. But, thank God you're here. So
right?
I'm excited.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I can make it.
You're welcome. So let's just go ahead and dive right in talking about resumes.
Yes.
All right. So how important is the cover letter?
Well, so cover letters to me, I think it depends on, first of all, the company and the position you're applying for. A resume, I feel like it's a matter of perspective. If it's a higher level position, I think a cover letter is definitely needed. If it's, an intern position, maybe not so much. But again, it's also up to the company. If we're talking about maybe Deloitte, they might want one. But again, it's up to, I would say, again, the rank of the position. If you're going for VP, you probably want one. So I would say it depends on the level of position you're looking at. I try to include one and, discuss a little bit about your background and kind of what you're looking for, but, don't go into everything and bullet points because that's what your resume is for. So, keep it short and sweet, a little bit about yourself and that kind of thing, but, not everything because that's what your resume is for.
Okay. So before we deep dive into what you look for in a resume, tell me what is a hard pass as soon as you see the resume?
Oh, for me, hard pass is if your job duties, what you've done at your previous positions, if it's in a paragraph format. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to read a book. As you know from your experience recruiting, we look through, resume. We have a lot, especially depending on the position. If it's a position where you get a lot of resumes, like for, like a receptionist type position, like an admin type position where you're going to get a lot of resumes, like 100+ resumes. You have a lot to look through. So you spend seconds on a resume for first glance, first impression. I don't have time to read a book. So I'm not trying to read through lines. I want to see short and quick, to the point bullet points of what you've done in your, experience. So that's first thing, first impression right off the bat. Unless there is some type of, as I'm looking at it, unless there is some word that catches my eye that makes me want to continue to looking at the resume, right off the bat, paragraph format, I'm next.
Okay.
And I only have a few seconds to spend on resumes unless something catches my eye.
Yes, it is definitely a high speed, environment when you have hundreds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, so now we've weeded out the ones that have the paragraph. So now, what exactly are you looking for on the resume?
Another big no, and I don't see it as often anymore, but pictures on a resume. I mean, again, unless it's relevant, like, if you're applying for maybe a modeling position, I could see where a picture would, be relevant. But unless it matters, like for modeling, a picture, no, a picture is a no. So I don't like pictures because to me, and I'm not trying to call anyone out or I'm not trying to be mean, but to me, a picture just seems vain. It seems a little bit conceited. So to me, pictures are no-nos. So that just makes me kind of keep flipping. It just makes me not interested. So pictures are no-no. Formatting is a big one to me because a resume, you have to remember, your resume is you. It's you on a piece of paper. So if you cannot get your resume right, if it does not look right, if it's not buttoned up, I's dotted, T's crossed, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to the next person who does present themselves properly. Your resume, you're selling yourself to get in the front door. So if you cannot present yourself properly on a sheet of paper, I'm afraid you're probably not going to present yourself well in person either. So your formatting has to be on point. Everything, if it's lined to the left, it all needs to be lined to the left. If it's lined in the middle, line it in the middle. If it's bullet pointed, bullet pointed. So it all needs to be lined together. Spelling needs to be lined proper. Everything needs to be spelled. You need to have somebody else look over your resume first because your mind reads it the way you meant to write it. So you might not catch something that somebody else will because they'll read it the way it's written, not the way you meant to write it. So have somebody else read it first. Things like when you're writing your current position versus your last position, the tense of your verbs needs to be correct. So all your present duties needs to say, like if you assist with something, all of your current position needs to say you assist versus assisted. So your past position, you need to have assisted. So watch the tense of your verbs. Things like that. I look for things like that, even though it seems very picky. I look for things like that, especially if you're applying for something like an editing position, a writer position, things like that. Your resume better be 100% on point, because if your resume is not 100% on point, then I'm not going to hire you as an editor, a writer, a proofreader, because if you can't do your own resume, then I'm not going to hire you to do anything else like that. So definitely things like that. Jargons, slang, abbreviations, try to avoid things like that, because just because you know what it is and other people in your industry would know what it is doesn't necessarily mean a recruiter will know what it is. So don't take things like that for granted. Things like that. Simple is better. Don't have, frilly paper and things like that. Simple is better. Don't overcrowd it. Keep it, nice and simple. Things like that.
Okay. So I want to make sure that we have time to get into the interview portion, but I have a few more resume questions for you.
Okay.
And so how do you feel like each resume should cater to the position you're applying for, or can you just have a blanket resume and just kind of throw them out there?
I think it can go both ways, but I've seen too many people mess up when they try to cater because they forget to change one thing, no matter what it is, whether it's the company's name or the title of the position, something like that. So just to avoid that, I would say just try to keep it as blanket as possible and tailor your cover letter. If you're going to tailor anything, tailor the cover letter and change that every time and just keep your resume the same. That way, if you don't have to include a cover letter, that way your resume is always the same and you can avoid sending an error and just avoid looking silly, in the
Right.
process.
Right. Okay. So, what are some tips? Their resume went through, it was Rockstar, and so now they have a request for an interview. What do you think are some things they should do before they even get to the interview? Like as soon as they get the call, what should be on their mind?
First thing, research company. Before you even, before you even attempt to go to this interview, research the company. Know where you're going, know what you're doing, research the company so that you can ask questions when you get there, not just about the position, but about the company. So definitely research the company. And hopefully before you even applied for the position, you would have read the job description. So you know what you're applying for. And not just read it, actually read it, like thoroughly read it so that you know what you're applying for and you know that you can actually perform every function of the job. Maybe not, even if you can't perform every single function, a good 90% of the functions of the job. MapQuest, where you're going. And if you're not familiar with the area of where the company is, like if you've never been in that area, I would suggest actually go like you're going for the interview the day before, a couple days before, so that the day of, you're not saying, oh, you're not calling because you're late and saying, oh, I can't find it. I'm sorry. I'm late. Make a trip there the day before so that you know for sure where you're going. Plan for time, plan for traffic, because showing up on time is, it's okay. But showing up early is better. And showing up late, no. That's a definite no. So early is on time. Early is on time.
There you go. So I do have some more questions, but I see that Maria, and we both know her as Madi,
Yes.
has a question.
Hi,
And
Madi.
right. And so she's wanting to know if someone is changing their career and they don't have any experience in the new career, outside of dedication and getting schooling certification license, do you pass or consider them?
I would, it depends, like, what type, if we're talking about a drastic change, like, how big of a change are we talking about here? And
let's just use Madi for an example, right? Because
okay.
what she used to do. We both know that.
Okay.
So now she might be selling insurance. So that's a drastic change in industry.
Okay, but she's also had customer service experience before.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as long as we're not talking like door-to-door insurance, and we're talking, still in the office, still on the phones. So she's had, office experience, she's had phone experience. So those are two very important things for selling insurance over the phone. Customer service is also, while it's not exactly selling, it's still a type of personality that you need for selling. So it's in the same ballpark. So she wouldn't be 100% out, I would still consider her. And then I would look at other things on her resume, like has she taken any type of classes, any type of other things outside of like she mentioned, certifications, classes, anything outside of just experience to show that she's trying to get into more selling, things of that nature. I would look for things along those lines to show, that a person is trying to move from one field to another and that they're really interested in going from A to B.
Okay.
So
Okay.
no, I would say no, that, someone's not completely out just because they don't have experience.
Right, right. Okay. So regarding the interview, how do you feel about, what should their attire be, and how do you feel about tattoos?
So attire and tattoos, again, it kind of goes back to the company. What are you applying for? What position are you applying for? What company are you applying to? If it's a company, if you're applying to a tattoo shop, clearly tattoos are okay. But, if you're applying to, again, maybe Deloitte, maybe tattoos aren't okay there. So again, kind of take into perspective where you're applying to, what type of a position you're applying for. And just because somebody who works in the company and that person tells you, we have a relaxed environment here. We wear whatever we want. We wear shorts here. Don't assume that that's okay. Don't take that for granted. Don't feel like that it's okay for you to walk in there with shorts and a t-shirt on just because, they do it there. Your friend told you that they do it there. That doesn't mean that it's okay for you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's better to be more conservative than not. You can't go wrong with that. Personally, I'm not a fan of tattoos, but that doesn't mean that, I count it against someone if they walk in with tattoos, on their body. Because, let's face it, many people have them these days. So that doesn't mean that they're, it doesn't disqualify them from a job by any means. Because they can if for some reason they have to be covered up during work time, there are things that can cover them up. So it doesn't disclude someone from a position. So I would say, it's better to be more conservative, dress business attire, for not, you don't have to go in with a 3-piece suit on, but, a nice shirt, pants, slacks,
Okay.
a business casual,
Okay.
try to cover them up if possible, but again, try to take it into perspective for the company.
Okay. And so, do you think it's a good idea for the, we're getting towards the end, and so I do have a couple more questions. So I want to try to kind of fire through these if we can.
Okay.
Do you think it's a good idea that we bring copies of our resume to the interview?
Yes, because you never know how many people you're going to end up speaking to. So yes, I would say take multiple copies and treat everyone that you meet with respect, even down to the first person that you meet, the receptionist, because you never know the culture of the company. You never know if they take the receptionist point of view into account as part of the recruiting process. You never know. So yes, take multiple copies. Because again, you don't know how many people you're going to be meeting with. You don't know if that person came prepared. So, they might need a copy of it. So yes, take multiple copies, take a notepad and a pen to take notes. Yes, come prepared.
Okay. And do you think they should come in with a copy of the job description that they're applying for?
It wouldn't hurt. Just in case, and have questions written on it, that you want to ask. So yes, it wouldn't hurt, and have your questions ready, and smart questions, not just filler questions like, well, how much does the job pay? To me, that's a filler question. Have a smart question ready, like, what will my performance be measured on? What will be the KPIs for the position? What are the next steps of the interview process? smart questions like that, not just, what does the position pay?
Okay. And
Yeah.
how honest should someone be when they say, tell me your worst and your best qualities?
Um, so don't lie. First of all, don't give inaccurate information, but don't be completely negative either, and definitely don't be negative about prior employers. That's a no. That's a big turn off, really, for me. That's a turn off. But just don't be overly negative. So I mean, if your honesty button goes way, to 100% to where you're being very negative, that practice that one before you go to an interview. Like, expect that question, even though somebody might not ask it. Expect it and practice it ahead of time. That's a good tip too. Practice in the mirror, practice with someone else, but practice that question so that you can be ready for it. Have your answers ready to Google interviewing before you go, to find out what questions could be asked, and be ready for those questions. Be ready with examples of your prior examples of a time when I did this, or in my prior work history I did this. Be ready with things like that.
Yeah. I always say that when someone asks, what is your worst thing? Find something positive and turn it into a negative so that they can so that they get it. And what I mean by that is, if you ask me on the interview, what is one of your worst qualities, I would say, well, sometimes I tend to be an overachiever. So after I finish my work, I try to, make sure that my team is okay. And then, and so, I've gotten in trouble before because, I help my coworkers and I see after them. And
Right.
so that is in their eyes like, oh my gosh, she's a team player.
Right.
But so you're not really kind of putting yourself out there as a negative.
Right.
And then, the last thing before we have to go, we have a few more minutes left. Don't lie. If you lie on your resume, if you lie on your resume, which you shouldn't, right? You shouldn't. And I'm gonna tell y'all, yeah, you shouldn't. But I'm gonna tell y'all how I met Jamie. Jamie was interviewing me for a position, and I had kind of, added a skill on my job that I said I had. And Jamie was like, well, do you have that skill? And I said yes, and I mispronounced, because I've never worked with that software. I mispronounced it, and she was like, what?
Yes, so that's very important. If you put something on your resume, a certain software that you say you've used before, know how to pronounce it. But if you're caught during the interview not pronouncing it correctly, be able to recover from it.
And I recovered because I got the job.
She recovered very well. And that's another thing, in the interview process. Be yourself, establish a connection with the, during the interview, which, Kim did very well. As many of you know, if you've been watching Kim's show, Kim has a great personality. She has an outstanding personality, so it's very easy to connect with Kim. And so during an interview, that's what you need to do. Kim and I, we had a phone screen, we had the in-person interview. We were already friends before Kim came to her in-person interview, just from her phone screen. And I never even met her. So, that's the important thing. Just be yourself, to the point. Don't make it fake. Is my point. Don't try to pretend like you're being yourself to the point that you're fake, but establish a connection by being real. Just if you have that big personality, that's great. Don't go overboard with it, but just be yourself, establish that connection, get the interviewer to like you. Don't be fake. Don't push it. Don't be, don't go too hard on it, but establish a connection. You have to stand out. There has to be something special about you, because again, we're going through, resume after resume after resume. So something on that piece of paper has to stand out about you. And then when you make it in the door, we're probably bringing, 10 people in the door, 20 people in the door. I don't know. It depends on the position. But again, you have to stand out when you come in the door. Something about you has to stand out to make us and however many people in this whole process say, that's the one, that's the person, that is going to fit in our culture, in this position, whether it's your experience, your personality. There has to be something about you that stands out to make that company want to hire you.
Yes, I agree. Listen, we're over our time. Jamie, thank you so much for coming on.
For having me.
Yes, definitely got to get you back. Thank you so much.
You're
All righty. So listen, we're over our time. Thank you all for joining me. Just remember, silence creates distance, and conversation with Kim builds the village. Bye-bye.